Hello, and welcome back to Boulder Bookstore Recommends. My name is Olivia Edmunds-Diez, and I am the Education Services Manager here at Boulder Bookstore. Today, I'm here to offer some great summer reading recommendations. And as we're all looking to diversify our reading life right now, this roundup here today might offer a great jumping off point, as some of these books might be familiar to you, and some of them might be new recommendations. First off, I would like to recommend Stamped, the Remix. This book is by Ibram X. Kendi and Jason Reynolds, and the two men took Ibram X. Kendi's Stamped from the Beginning, which is a book that you might be trying to get right now and can't, and remixed it for teen audiences. So while this book is technically for teens, I think this book is appropriate for all ages to read, including adults. Jason Reynolds, who's a well-loved middle reader and teen reader author, has taken a very intense, massive book and broken it down for younger audiences, so it's readable, it's digestible. I learned a lot as an adult, and I wish this was something that I had read in high school and had been available at that time. I especially recommend it on audio, and we love working with Libro FM for that purpose, and audiobooks never sell out or go on back order, so you can read that sooner. Next, moving into something quite a bit different, we have A Princess in Theory by ALYSSA Cole. This is the first book in her Reluctant Royals romance series, and don't let the word romance throw you off. This book is a joy from start to finish. We have two main characters here, a young woman who is working in STEM. She's a scientist, specifically working with the pandemic tracking diseases unit, which is a little bit timely in a different kind of way. And then we have a young man over here who just so happens to be a prince. And the two of them are betrothed. She doesn't know that though. So he keeps sending her emails saying, "Hello, I am your long lost betrothed husband from Nigeria. Please respond with your social security number to confirm your identity." And she's like, "Oh no, I'm not falling for that kind of a scam." Chaos ensues, hijinks ensues. This book is delightful, it's charming, it's funny, and is a really great, relaxing summer read. Next, I recommend The Bride Test by HELEN HOANG, who is also the author of The Kiss Quotient, and I highly recommend that book as well. So in this one, our main character comes from Ho Chi Minh City to the United States, and she has specifically been brought by our leading man's mother to marry him. He has no idea this is coming. The mother is trying to set up an arranged marriage and is pleading, hopefully, that this one finally works. Obviously, they get off to a bit of a bumpy start, partly because neither of them really want an arranged marriage, which I think is pretty understandable, but also the leading man is neuroatypical and he has autism, which has led to some challenges in his dating life. And our main character, Esme, the two of them come to an understanding and they learn how to work together. It's a beautiful love story. It ends really well and happily because it's a romance. But I highly recommend this book. It's really fun. Next, we have Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng. And you may have heard of this author's name, as her second book, Little Fires Everywhere, has been immensely popular and was turned into a television series, both of which are great. Highly recommend. Great summertime reading and watching. But in this book, her first book, I think this one's better. And we have a family living in Ohio in the 70s, and it's a mixed race family. And the middle daughter goes out swimming one night, and there's an accident, and she dies. And the family immediately starts to fall apart, which is understandable. So this book delves into the secrets that the children have, that the parents have from one another. We're looking at a history of this family in, again, in Ohio, dealing with racism, dealing with sexism, that the parents, both when they were younger and as adults, are facing. So this is a great family drama looking sort of at a generational, how do we love one another, how do we have secrets from one another, and how do we find a way forward. All right. Next, we have Recipe for Persuasion by Sonali Dev. Dev is also the author of Pride, Prejudice, and Other Flavors. And if you're noticing a theme here, you are not wrong. Dev does fantastic retellings of Jane Austen novels featuring people of color. So it's a great way to revisit a story that we all know and love, Pride and Prejudice, Persuasion, but with a bit of a fresh contemporary perspective. Also, there's a lot of food, which is just great in the summertime because the descriptions are so vivid and enticing, and it makes you really want to go make some dinner. But it's really fun. And her first book, Pride, Prejudice, and Other Flavors, is fantastic. I personally am a huge fan of Persuasion, so this one just really speaks to my heart. So I highly recommend this book. Next, we have Next Year in Havana by Chanel CLEETON. CLEETON is a Cuban-American woman who writes books that revolve around women in Havana, in Cuba, during the revolution. So this is her first book that addresses that, but I highly recommend her other books as well, including her newest book coming out this summer called The Last Train to Key West. But in this one, we have a present day story and a past story. And in the present, we have a young woman going to Cuba for the first time because her grandmother's passed away, and her grandmother's last wish was to have her ashes returned to Cuba. So the granddaughter is fulfilling the request of her beloved grandmother. And as we flash to the past, we hear the story of her grandmother when she was in Cuba, when her family had to flee because of the revolution and moved to Miami. So this is a really remarkable story looking at the past, the present, at family, and how complicated a lot of that can really be. All right, up next we have The Stationery Shop by MARJAN KAMALI. This is a gorgeous story set in Tehran during the revolution. And we have a young boy and a young girl, and they meet in a stationery shop, and they fall in love. And it's beautiful, and it's young love, and it's a breath of fresh air. But there's a revolution, and their families don't get along and don't approve of the match. So they agree to meet in a square so they can run away together and be together. But something happens, and they never find each other that day. Each of them are devastated. And then we flash forward to the present, and they're both in America. They've separately immigrated to the United States, and they meet again for the first time, and each of them says to the other person, "What happened? I was there. Where were you?" So this is a gorgeous love story that delves into what happened that day, looking at, yes, politics, but also family and love and the pressures to live up to what your family expects, but also the struggle to be who you are on the inside. And last but not least, we have The Wedding Date by Jasmine Guillory. Guillory's books are absolutely delight from start to finish. This is her first, but she has several. And her most recent book, Party of Two, comes out later this month, so you can pre-order that now. In The Wedding Date, we have a young black woman and a young white man who are both at a hotel for a wedding. And they're in the elevator, going up to their hotel rooms, and then the elevator stops. So they're hanging out in the elevator, making conversation, and the next thing you know, he says to her, "Hey, why don't you be my date for this weekend for the wedding?" She says yes. They embark on a great series of dates, including their first date being the wedding. It's charming, it's fun, it looks at, yes, race in dating, especially in this contemporary age in California, but it's also just a great romance. It's a great love story, and they fall in love from start to finish. So this is really fun, and I highly recommend this one. All right, that's all for us today. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.